Hey everyone, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with week. Kind of looks like trying to make an X and a 2 here for Roman numerals, but week 12 of my wonderful coronavirus unemployment saga, right? So let's get right into it. We're going to start off by talking about procedurals. What a fucking mess procedurals have been this week. I still have not gotten any money from unemployment yet. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've gotten any money from them. I last got money from them on July 1st, but again, that was still from the old claim. So it's getting to the point now where I am definitely concerned. I spoke to unemployment a couple of times throughout the week, and I heard contradictory information. One person I spoke to said, "Oh, they said it should be within a week." Another, but they said there was nothing holding up. I spoke to another person, and they said there's nothing holding up. Then I spoke to someone else, and they said it could be. They said it typically takes about 21 days, and I'm pretty much there at 21 days at this point since I filed, and they said it might take up to 3 more weeks after the 21 days. So I'm either gonna get the money really, really soon, or almost a month from now. So fabulous, right? Um, Incredibly frustrating. Thankfully, I've managed, like I said, to save a large chunk of change. Getting the expanded unemployment and all that in the stimulus check and all. I still have all that money, so I'm not, in dire straits. But I definitely need to have a game plan here. I need to know when I'm going to get the money, how much it's going to be. All that would be incredibly helpful. And getting that information is impossible or seemingly impossible. I don't know what to do. Um, I haven't had to dip into my savings yet, but I have a feeling by the end of this week, if I don't get any money, that situation will change, unfortunately. But such as life for me. So that's the procedural out of the way. Just a big fucking mess. As far as the job hunt goes, um, what incredible contradiction this month has been as far as the job hunt goes. I did not apply to a single job until what day of the week was it? I'm trying to figure this out here. Okay. Um, there were literally no jobs to apply for until Wednesday, right? So I was like, not feeling remotely good um, about this week. I was thinking, man, this is going to be a terrible week for job hunting. There's nothing even to apply for until Wednesday. So Wednesday, I applied to a couple of jobs. Um, Very next day, Thursday, I get an email, late afternoon or something, from one of the companies. It was a drug company that I applied for, uh, wanting to, speak to me um, about the position. So, okay, fine. I told this person, I said, yeah, I can talk to you. I scheduled the conversation for 11 a.m. Friday morning. So she calls me up and we talk about the job. It sounds like a fairly decent job with, she asked me for a salary range, and I said, well, at the low end, I'm hearing around 55,000 a year, and at the higher end, I'm hearing between 75 and $80,000 a year. She's like, well, this job would be towards the upper side of that. I'm like, well, that's fantastic, and the job sounds pretty good. Definitely something I could handle. Yada yada yada. A pretty good job. So she did ask me. She's like, well, are you making any progress with other companies or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in the running for a few other companies, job offers and all that. She's like, well, let me know if you get an offer. That way, you know, uh, you can withdraw. I said, sure, no problem. So I suspect she's gonna send my information on to the hiring manager or whatever, and I presume I will more than likely have another conversation with the drug company next week, because I seem to pass the initial phone screen interview with the HR person with flying colors. I mean, she seemed to really like me. We had good talk and everything. So there's that. So I was like, well, that's a little bit of positivity. One thing I decided to, oh, sorry, I can't believe I forgot this. Earlier in the week, on Monday, I had a third interview with the hospital. And as far as how well do I think the interview went with the hospital, I think it went okay. I very rarely have really terrible interviews, right? The only time I really tend to have those is if I really don't want the job and I kind of self sabotage, and I generally don't do that. Like, especially now with me being out of work, I'm not going to self sabotage any interviews, right? I'm going to try to do a good job in all of them. So I think that one went. I think it went fairly well, but I don't feel like I like quote knocked it out of the park or anything. I think it went pretty good. So they told me that they'd make a decision within 2 weeks and they'd let me know one way or the other. And that was pretty much it with the hospital, right? So I don't expect to hear anything from them until at least the end of next week. But now I'm going to tell you about the thing that was totally unexpected and quite positive that happened today. Well, I guess technically yesterday since it's 1 something a.m. But it happened after I spoke to the woman from the drug company. I decided to email the recruiter at the bank that I've been going back and forth with, right? And the woman from the bank, I emailed her, and I expected to hear either nothing or it's going to be at least another week before they're ready to move forward with anything or make any decisions or do anything. So I expected either nothing or wait. What I did not expect was, oh, I'm so glad you emailed. In fact, I was about to email you. The hiring manager wants to speak with you regarding this position with one of her colleagues on Tuesday. So obviously, that is an incredibly positive development. This would actually make interview number 4 with the bank. I've never gone through 4 interviews ever. I'm okay with it. I mean, obviously, I have no problem with that. But if I've made it to a 4th interview, I don't even know how often those happen. It's the first 4th interview I've ever had in my life. They're obviously very interested in me, right? I mean, she told me I was her top candidate. So I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know what's going to happen. But obviously, I'm going to do my absolute freaking best in that interview and try to, you know, do good. Because, the bank is obviously the job that I'm the most interested in. Now, on my last week's coronavirus video, unemployment video, Chris at Dixieland Farms left a very interesting comment on my video that I want to kind of talk about and expand on the concept a little bit. Last week, I was saying I'd be really nervous if I got 2 good job offers at once and kind of had to make a decision, yada, 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 right? And he commented on that a little bit because I said, well, I would really hate to, like, for example, because I thought the bank was really going to drag their feet, which apparently they're not going to really drag their feet. I think they're very close to making a decision. In fact, I might hear a decision from them before I hear one from the bank. I mean, I might hear one from the bank before I hear one from the hospital is what I meant to say. I would have hated to, like, say, start working at the hospital or accept a job offer from the hospital and then, like, say, have to turn it down, right? Because I said I wouldn't want to basically burn my bridge with that hospital. I don't, for one, I don't think that might be necessary because on Tuesday, um, if they're really impressed with me or whatever, maybe a job offer will be very forthcoming at that point. I can only hope. Again, I have no idea if that's going to be the case or not. Again, I still acknowledge it's not a done deal. It could very easily not happen. But obviously, a fourth interview is a very positive development. So this might be a moot issue. But here's the actual point he left. He said, sometimes it's nice when the universe makes a few decisions for us. Agree 100% on that one. Having to pick between two good job offers, always wondering if you made the right choice. But if I would add my advice, hospitals are a little more stable and will be than banks. Banks fold and merge often and things happen. With your recent issues over the years, I think stability might be worth more than money. Chris, that is pretty damn good advice, actually. You're right, because like I said, I've mentioned, over the last 4 years, I've had stability problems with the companies that I've worked at, right? And if this was a different bank, I might agree with you 1,000,000%. But the bank in question, I don't want to name them because, again, I don't do that in my videos. This bank is over 100 years old. They're a very major bank. They're relatively high up on the Fortune 500 list. I think as far as that type of institution goes, they're probably as stable as they're going to get. But I agree, the hospital, I think either institution would be more stable. But I do see what you're saying. Like, if I get the job with the bank, there's a possibility that even if the bank survives, which it probably will long after I'm dead, even if the bank were to survive or whatever, things can happen internally. They could decide to go in a different strategic direction with the company and, shutter. If I were to get this job, they could decide to shutter the part of the IT department I'm working in, all that sort of stuff. Yes, those things most certainly can absolutely happen. And maybe it is more of a gamble to do this type of a role. And it is something most definitely worth considering. Whereas the hospital, it's a hospital. It's a very major hospital here in the area as well. Sometimes things can happen at hospitals as well. Sometimes they can decide to do different strategic things and scale back on staff. In fact, when I've spoken to the person that I'm interviewing with the hospital, he actually said that one great thing about working there is the stability. So yes, I agree, Chris. That is a very excellent point to think about. But it's not just the money at the bank that makes it, quote, more appealing than the hospital. It's also the nature of the work. Because at the hospital, what the job is that I'm being considered for, basically, is a support analyst, right? And essentially, what that is, for those of you who aren't in the IT field, basically, I would just more or less be troubleshooting various IT issues, be it hardware, software, networking, whatever it is, right? Basically, troubleshooting problems, doing some infrastructure work, doing a little bit of server work, doing some projects, things like that. But my primary focus would be user support. And I have been doing that sort of work for 15 years at this point. And I'm kind of sick of it. I mean, I don't mind doing it. It definitely earns me a living, and it's totally fine. Um, and I don't have a problem doing it. But that being said, this job at the bank, it's almost like ascending to another level, because essentially what the job at the bank um, is I'm not really going to be doing any user support at the bank. Maybe very occasionally I might be doing a few trials with users or whatever, but it really would not be typical user support, right? That's not in this job description. Uh, Basically, what this job is a very important role in developing, um, more or less being a technical resource to drive certain new technology initiatives at the bank, right? Basically, working with the technical teams in the bank to make new things happen. Uh, going back and forth with management on making these things happen, while also, so it's not just talking about it, it's making things happen. Like, part of the job, for example, would just be like configuring a server, for example, to host software platform X, right? Whatever the platform is, it would probably be in my job description to prep a server to run this software or whatever and test it out and all that. So, um, it's not just more money, it's also a higher level position than what I've been doing, right? I'm like kind of graduating from, um, a frontline IT guy who deals with typical bullshit user issues like I can't print or my computer's not plugged in or whatever, to basically a guy who's in the background, and I would only basically be doing technical work with the technical teams there. I wouldn't be, which is kind of exciting, right? Because it's like ascending to another level, which might enable me to get even higher level jobs in the future. So it's not just more money. I think overall this might be a great move for my career. I don't know for sure, of course. But you could. It's definitely is maybe a bit more of a gamble than the bank. But then again, with how the interview went at the bank, I don't feel that I totally destroyed it. At the bank, or I'm sorry, not at the bank, at the hospital. I don't feel I totally destroyed it at the hospital. So the hospital, they may very well not be interested in me anyway, and this could just again be more of a moot point. The hospital could be like, we don't want that guy, we want this other guy instead. So it's entirely possible the hospital wouldn't even want me for whatever reason anyway. So, um, yeah, that's it. That's where I'm currently at. I don't know what's going to happen. So again, time will tell. Um, I don't know what the right move is. Obviously, I don't even know what's going to happen. It may not even be a decision. I may only get an offer from the bank and not the hospital. Or I may only get an offer from the hospital and not the bank. Or I may only get an offer from the drug company and not the other two. Or they could all, oh God, they could all fail. That would be horrible, but I acknowledge that's a possibility as well. The point is, right now, I just don't know. And these are all things to consider. And I know I went on and on and on about this, but I thought it was a point kind of worth exploring. And I wanted to explain a little bit what's going on, just in case any of you are out there in somewhat of a similar situation. I hope this helps somebody somehow. At some point after this is over, after my unemployment is over, I probably will do a video where I talk about some of these themes in a bit more detail, and with a little bit more of a script and maybe a little more coherence. Um, so yeah, I mean, as far as personally what I've been doing, it's just another typical week here. Nothing exciting has happened, So that's more or less it. I hope you guys like this. To, on Sunday, I will be doing a live stream here on my channel at noon with a YouTube friend of mine, and we will actually be talking about music, not uh, the BS I've been talking about. It will be music related. So if you guys want to see that, tune in if you want. So that is basically it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, thank you so much for watching. Live long and prosper. Keep on rocking. Hey, bonus content. I usually don't do bonus content in my weekly unemployment crap videos. But there were a few points I kind of forgot to leave out of the video after reviewing it. I'm going to start with one procedural thing that happened this week that was incredibly frustrating. Over last weekend, I got a letter from my mortgage company telling me that my forbearance was ending on July 1st, and I needed to give them 3 months worth of mortgage all at once. So Monday, I decided to call the mortgage company because that was my first opportunity to. I waited on hold literally for 5 hours to talk to these fuckers. 5 fucking hours. And the first person I talked to was a really rude bitch. She she's like, well, it's not even you're in forbearance until July 1st. We can't do anything until July 1st. I'm like, you can't go over my options or anything with me. She's like, no, we can't do anything at all until July 1st. Okay. I did actually, because one option was to wait on hold. So I did. Another option I called on my cell was to have them call back. So I did. And somebody else called my cell. I talked to them. They were much more polite than the first person I spoke to, thankfully. And she said basically, I'd have a few different options. One would just be extending it another 3 months or putting it back onto the end of my loan, yada yada, things like that. So I'm like, okay. So that was a lot more pleasant of a conversation than the first one. But man, you know what? Fuck you, BB&T. I don't care if you guys know who my mortgage is through. They can go shit on it. Oh my god, 5 fucking hours and that's what I get. Great customer service there. So yeah, that was fantastic. I just wanted to tell you guys that amusing anecdote. Obviously, you'll know what happens as I go through this bullshit, assuming that I stay out of work or whatever. So I had to include that. Now I just have a few kind of amusing personal anecdotes of things that happened to me. Literally on Friday. I was the first thing that happened to me is on Friday I was in my pool for I don't know a few hours or something, and a freaking wasp of all things decided to get near me. It stung me a couple of times in the arm and the chin, and man, I didn't even realize that they stung multiple times, but they most certainly do, and it hurt pretty good. The end, right? As far as that goes. And the little fucker, after he stung me a couple of times, he's just floating in the water. Yeah, fun stuff. The other kind of funny personal anecdote is when I was exercising yesterday evening, I was doing weights, and I managed to knock myself in the teeth with one of the free weights I was using. Donk. So, yeah, pay attention to what you're doing, kids. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to include this stuff. One was like semi useful, the other stuff was just funny. I hope you guys like this. See you guys next time.